Hello, my name is Evan Williams, and today I will be talking to you about a German dish that has been in my family for many generations. From what I gather from my relatives, the year was around 1910 or around 1915, and my great-grandmother and great-grandfather were living in the town of Goslar, Germany. And in this small town, they had a three-room cottage where they raised 8 children. And due to the size of this family, my great grandmother was a stay at home mom. She took care of the kids, fed them, and put them through schooling. And my great grandfather was a cobbler in the local village where he worked on shoes. And this wasn't the best type of job back in the day. It didn't pay as much as others. And with so many mouths to feed, they didn't have a lot of extra money for unnecessary items. And they were also very devout Catholics. They loved celebrating the Catholic holidays such as Easter and especially Christmas, the birth of Christ. But due to them not having a lot of extra money, they didn't have a lot to spend on gifts for the kids or have a big feast. But my great grandmother always made sure they had enough to make these Springerle cookies. These Springerle cookies are a very simple recipe. They only need flour, eggs, and sugar. And they also call for anise oil. This is a black licorice flavoring. And right here I actually have the bowl that my great grandmother made these cookies in back in the 1900s. The process for making these cookies took a very long time. It took nearly 3 days. You had to let the dough dry, and at the end they were a very hard, sturdy cookie. A lot of people like to dip them in their coffee or milk or hot cocoa during the festive holidays. And even after my great grandmother and great grandfather and all their kids moved over to the States, they still made these cookies even when they still had money, more than they used to have. And over the years, she taught my grandmother how to make them, and she wanted to make sure my grandmother knew how to make them, so she had the same values that my great grandmother had, that you didn't have to have the best of everything or have everything to know that you were loved or came from a good family, as long as you stayed true to your religion. And eventually they kept making them, and my grandmother eventually taught my mother how to make these cookies, and to this day we are still eating the Springerle cookies every Christmas, and we are reminded where we come from and our heritage in Germany. And I hope today that you have learned something about the Springerle cookies and where I come from and what I take away from having the Springerle cookies. And I hope that you someday will learn to make them and can truly